Welcome, everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited to be here in a group in person. Isn't this lovely? My name is Catherine Ross. I am a member of the board of the YMCA of Owen Sound, as well as a member of the Peace Medal Selection Committee. We are, as I say, very excited to welcome everyone in person for the first time in a few years. It is with honor and respect that we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation, Ojibwe Nation, and the Métis peoples. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations that come before us who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Each year during the third week of November, the YMCA invites people of all ages to reflect on peace, to talk and to take action individually and with others. This year, during the week of November 13th to the 20th, our YMCA, together with YMCAs across the country, celebrate the presence of peace in our communities and reflect on peace-building work that happens both inside and outside the Y. A special highlight of the YMCA Peace Week is the YMCA Peace Medal. The medal was developed in 1987 by a small group of volunteers and staff who made up the International Committee at the YMCA of Fredericton. Now, 33 years later, the Peace Medal is presented at Ys across Canada during Peace Week to recognize the achievements of individuals who, without any special resource, status, wealth, or position, demonstrate the values of peace. That is participation, empathy, advocacy, community, and empowerment, all very valuable attributes, I'm sure you'll agree. Since 1987, more than 2,000 individuals and groups across Canada have been recognized with peace medals for their peace-building work. Here at our YMCA, we've honored 23 individuals and 12 groups from our communities who inspire us and their work and action around peace. A list of all of those recipients can be found on the YMCA of Owen Sound website. Today, we welcome new peacemakers to the special group by acknowledging their important contributions to our community, our country, and our world. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Michael, who's going to present the recipients of this year's Peace Medal Awards. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. Gee, it's really nice to see real people, real faces, and not have that bloody computer screen business going on. So I know I really sound like an old fogey now, and I guess I am. I'm getting there. You know, this is always an amazing job to have. I've been on the Peace Medallion Committee for a few years now. I don't know how many. And every year in that back room, in this case on Zoom, we are able to look at people that have been nominated by their friends, by their colleagues in the community. And this is an amazing thing because to get nominated, somebody has to think you're worthy. And so every single person that's nominated is really worthy of getting this medallion. It's our job to have to narrow that down. And that is a hard job. That's a very hard job. So before I announce this year's recipients, I'm going to thank those people that submitted those nominations this year. It was a very impressive group, it always is. And we had a really difficult time trying to figure out who was going to be doing it this year, and we couldn't. So this year, and there have been a couple of years prior to this, but this year we are going to award 2 peace medallions to 2 different submissions for the community. It's really my delight to say I like to drag this out. I wish I had an envelope, but I got to put it right here. And I was in the room. That this year's recipients are 2 very worthy community workers that have constantly over the years, they're no strangers to any of us here because we've seen them time after time, not just for these amazing projects that they have accomplished. But the first one I'd like to mention is Susan Staves and the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden Project Committee, an amazing initiative here in Owen Sound, and Aly Boltman. for her work getting the commemorative, I'm going to call it monument for the Potter's Field Volunteer Steering Committee. So I think, first of all, we have to take a bit of time and acknowledge these. It's sort of like Christmas for me, you know. Look at this, these two wonderful women here. Okay, I will first introduce Aly Boltman and the work of the Potter's Field Monument Volunteer Steering Committee. Greenwood Cemetery in Owen Sound is home to Potter's Field, where approximately 1,300 people lie in their final resting place with no marker to honor a life lived or to note their individual histories. Hundreds of newborns, stillborn, toddlers, orphans, seniors, Indigenous people, working poor, incarcerated, and homeless are buried there. Many people from Owen Sound's historic Black community, including many who escaped on the Underground Railroad and their descendants, share this overlooked resting place at this northern terminus of the railroad, and it is estimated about half of those interred were Black citizens who faced systemic racism, often resulting in very deep poverty. In early 2018, a cemetery tour entitled 6 at 6 took place at the Greenwood Cemetery, led by Aly Boltman. The reading of the names and stark circumstances that caused these citizens to be interred in Potter's Field led one couple to join the Potter's Field Monument Volunteer Steering Committee with an offer to fund a monument to honor these individuals who died as underdogs. John and Shirley Rayburn of Owen Sound worked alongside Aly in the Potter's Field Monument Volunteer Steering Committee to finalize this project in 2021. The nominees' volunteers are made up of a number of local people who came together for a cause that has brought dignity and closure to many people and all residents of Owen Sound that found themselves and their families unable to afford a proper burial. Their descendants can now visit them at Greenwood Cemetery and know their ancestors are respected for who they were and their contributions to family and our community. The members of this community have given a priceless gift to these families in the form of a monument which reflects on the historic connections of the Underground Railroad to Owen Sound. With that said, I'd like to call upon my fellow committee member, Brian, and YMCA CEO, Sarah, to help me officially present this year's award to Aly and the committee. So, come on up. I'm going to pass the podium over to the other guys. Peter Peacock. No, that's after. Sorry. Oh, that's not. Aly? You know what? Let's do the presentation and then you can just blow it up. So here's a wonderful flag. Aly.
Thank you.
And,
okay. Aly, here's the medallion.
You can put that on later.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, shall we sit down?
I think you can say a few words if you want to say a few words. You can say them now.
Is now the time? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Ezra. Can I give that to you? Shirley, do you want to speak first?
No.
No? Can I take this
Yes,
off?
absolutely.
Okay.
So those of us that need to lip read can see them.
Okay. I prepared a little speech here, and there's some of it was just said by Michael, so I apologize if I'm repetitive, but I was a former auctioneer, so I can speak fast, which will benefit you. I'm honored to be here today to accept this award along with Shirley and John Rayburn, without whom there would be no monument or this wonderful YMCA Peace Medal award. In February 2018, I was asked by Philly Markowitz to create an outdoor historical event for the Lupercalia Winter Arts Festival. I decided to lead a cemetery tour because that's the obvious thing to do in the dead of winter in Owen Sound. About 75 people gathered at Greenwood in -10-degree weather for an hour-and-a-half tromp through nearly 40 acres of ice and snow in the pitch black. The tour ended at Potter's Field, known as the Poor Grounds, and we held up our flashlights to read the interment list of those buried unmarked in what appears to the passerby as a small, empty field. I listened to the perfect strangers struggle to read the words like child, found drowned in river, age unknown, or stumbling to recite the names of young mothers who had died in childbirth along with their babies, of youth cut down in their prime of their lives, of seniors who had outlived their loved ones and gone to their graves anonymous in Potter's Field, just one small step beyond a mass grave. I discovered I wasn't alone in being horrified about the complete near erasure of more than 1,000 people. A few months later, I led a similar tour for Doors Open, and when it was over, someone ran up to me and said, "A man just offered to fund a memorial." I think it may have actually been Anne. And I was in shock. You know, having spent the better part of my career working for charities trying to raise money for good causes, I had never had the experience of not having asked for money and somebody stepping forward and offering it to me anyway. To try to help restore the dignity to the people of Potter's Field. It took 2.5 years, a lot of community consultation and hard work, but the monument was finally placed in the winter of 2021. We have been trying to hold a community dedication ever since, but of course COVID has continued to stymie our efforts. Exactly how many people are buried at Potter's Field, or were buried at Potter's Field between 1858 and 1989 is still unclear, but it's somewhere between about 1,000 and 1,300 people. What's not debated is that Potter's Field holds the remains of Owen Sound's most vulnerable people, those who faced terrible systemic racism, former slaves or their descendants, who escaped across the border. Despite Owen Sound's recognition as the northern terminus of the Underground Railroad, and all of the efforts made here to celebrate our unique cultural heritage, such as Black History walking tours, the Emancipation Festival, museum exhibits, the Black History Cairn, no marker has ever been erected to honor the resting place of these very people. The monument's arched window is inspired by the Black History Cairn designed by Benita Johnson de Mateus, modeled on the original BME Church, the historic Black church in Owen Sound. The long point of the monument indicates north, the direction of freedom for thousands and for generations. Along with the very high concentration of Black citizens in Potter's Field, there's also at least 5 Indigenous persons. There are the working poor, hundreds of them, the babies, the infants, the children, the seniors, those felled by disease, Spanish flu, malnutrition, poverty, colonialism, sexism, and other hardships that are entirely avoidable in a just society that values human life and scorns inequity and erasure. Creating the monument brought some long overdue dignity to the people interred at Potter's Field, and for us today, it's an opportunity for us to learn local in a way that effectively connects us to our environment and to each other. I have so many people to thank. I have spent the better part of a week terrified that I'm going to forget someone. Please accept my apologies if I do. So John and Shirley, you are the best former neighbors a girl could ask for, and deeply caring human beings who recognize the inherent dignity in everyone. Thank you for your generosity, your commitment, but most of all now, your friendship. Thank you to Dorothy Abbott and the Grey County Black Heritage Society who submitted the nomination for this award. Dorothy is here if you'd like to speak to her about this new and growing organization's valuable work. Dorothy, can you raise your hand in case someone wants to come and talk to you after? Terry Jackson, local researcher and historian whose article, Greenwood Cemetery, Land for the Living, which is what introduced me to Potter's Field and ultimately inspired the monument itself. The City of Owen Sound, specifically Council, Pam Coulter, Adam Parsons, who's back there, and of course the city dedicated the concrete, or donated the concrete monument base, ensuring its long-term stability. Professor Naomi Norquay, who was leading the federally funded research project to unearth the histories of those in Potter's Field, information which will eventually be on a website, likely housed by Grey Roots. The long-suffering Steve Payton, where are you, Steve? Formerly of Sanderson Monuments, who retired almost immediately upon the completion of the monument. And no wonder, after putting up with so many design changes, when I called him last week and invited him, he was kind of shocked and he said, "Oh, I just did my job." He said, Although we did go through the entire alphabet, didn't we? Each design was named after a letter in the alphabet. We went through the whole alphabet and some. My fiance, Michael Dentant, who helped me edit the description on the monument, Michael proposed to me a few weeks ago in no better place in the world, Potter's Field. The community who responded to our survey to determine the direction of the monument and who have come forward with vital research. And my thanks are also extended to the many people who served as an informal advisory group or volunteers at open houses, consultants, promoters, and more. Bonita Johnson de Mateus, Naomi Norquay, Petal Furness, Richard Thomas, who's here today, Dorothy, who's here, Terry, Blaine Courtney, Karen Noble, Anne Finley Stewart, William Flipchuk, M.A. Sturley, Amanda Tennant, Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard, and Anne-Marie Hay. Thank you to the committee here at YMCA for selecting this project. You've helped us bring awareness to the memorial and to community social justice, which is the most important piece of all of this. Thank you to my family for supporting this project, even though it took time and focus away from all of you and our time together. Michael, Luke, Leah, Aaron, Ezra, and Carter, you are all my North Stars. And lastly, I humbly ask the people of Owen Sound to visit the memorial, to pay your respects to the people of Potter's Field, and I hope it brings you the same peace that it brings all of us, as well as to all of those who rest there, who have, in the end, not been entirely forgotten. I know I just hogged the stage entirely.
I would think that from what Aly has just read to you, gives you an idea of what Shirley and I had to go through as neighbors of hers, as we traveled from her place down at the end of the lane, all the way through our neighbors, caring for dogs and caring for snow. And it is with pleasure that we were able to
finally get it all together.
Put it all together. And I would
we in fact went to Florida the last winter that we were working on it, and I had a blank wall and I had tape all over the wall marking out the shape of the monument so we could see it.
Yes, and it was the efforts of Aly and I find out her committee that made this happen. I'd like to say this, that it did happen because we had very few people that Shirley and I were involved in, Aly being the one. And if you want to make something, happen, do it. Don't have a big committee. And that's the way I operate. I don't want a lot of people telling me what to do. And so therefore, that is why we made the offer, and that is why it's come to fruition. Thank you, Aly, for your input and for the amount of effort that you put forth to make this happen.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Well, I say we scored on the first choice, eh? Look out, there's more to come. And it's my pleasure now, I'm going to pass the podium over to my fellow Peace Medallion Committee member and YMCA board member, Peter Peacock, to present the work of the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden Committee. Peter.
Thank you, Michael. So along with the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden Committee, Susan Staves was individually nominated for being a driving force, founding member, and committee chair of the committee. The committee was established in 2010, way back, 2010 to recognize and celebrate Indigenous peoples in Grey and Bruce, as well as the local Indigenous history through the creation of a gathering place for Indigenous, Métis, and non-Indigenous people on the traditional settlement site of the Nawash and Saugeen of First Nations peoples in the area. With its educational, historical, and interpretive components, and its beauty, the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden provides a place for Indigenous healing from the devastating effects of the colonization of the First Nation people and their experiences in Canada's residential school system. The project is a demonstration of the resilience of Indigenous peoples and the renaissance and continuation of cultural knowledge and belonging in this place, especially important for coming generations. The sculpted sturgeon brings connection to the 7 traditional Dotem teachings, while the native plantings and grandmother and grandfather stones reclaim the original ecology of this place. Nominator Joe Calvert also added to the nomination that the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden Project Committee, it's a big one to get out, brought together people from the Indigenous and Métis communities, including elders from both Asagi and Nawash, as well as non-Indigenous local residents. As a member of the Inclusive Communities Committee of Grey and Bruce, I would add that the inclusion extended to the Indigenous and Métis peoples toward non-Indigenous peoples has also been a hallmark of this project. It's important to point out that this project provides a place of healing, teaching, and inclusivity for all members of our community, which closely aligns to the value of peace. I'll now call on my committee members, Michael and Catherine, to help me officially present this year's award to Susan and the committee. So if you want to come forward, please, Susan. Anybody else wants to come with me?
Well, it's your day, Susan.
Come, committee, come.
He's going to need a few things.
There we go.
It's all about Susan. That's we need to.
Thank you.
So first of all, here's the certificate, and then I'll probably relieve you of it so you don't have to stand around holding it. There's a beautiful medallion. You mean to photograph? So, yes, if you want to. Excellent, excellent, thank you. If you want to make some remarks.
Okay, I might be repeating myself too. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the garden. The importance of the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden to Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is how it contributes to healing, building new relationships and moving forward in peace and to our community's journey toward truth and reconciliation. Having the history of the local Indigenous peoples made public and accessible in the garden establishes common ground and starts conversations, a place for people of all nations to gather. We make the current invisible presence and history of Indigenous peoples visible to people walking through the garden. Increasing the awareness and respect for long ignored history, culture, and traditions of our local Indigenous peoples helps our community address ongoing racism and settler attitudes. In addition to being a place of contemplation, the garden serves as a gathering place for cultural significant events, such as weddings, baptisms, Aboriginal Day, solstice and equinox, concerts, National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and school visits with youth to learn and take part in events with traditional knowledge keepers. The space is meant to be inclusive and is intended to be used for reflection, knowledge, and celebration. I want to thank Joe Calvert from One World Festival for the nomination and Francesca Dobbin for her reference. This is a great honor for our committee. I have the best team. I want to thank the current committee members for their hard work and commitment to the garden. Thomas Dean, Colleen Purdon, Donna Elliott, Francesca Dobbin, Shirley John, Mark Plummer, Michael Craig, Greg Nadjawan, Gary Kenny, and Jordan Murray. I want to mention Leanne Reagan-Dance's name as a recipient of this award posthumously. Leanne was a very dear friend to the committee, and in the last few years of Leanne's life, she was very committed to and a committee member. I also want to thank the past committee members, Paul Nadjawan, Graham Bland, and Virginia Smith, for their vision and hard work. I say Chiimagwech to our many supporters and funders. We couldn't have come this far without you. The Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden began as a process of reconciliation and healing, and to help the, make the rich culture, language, history, and spirituality and presence of Indigenous people more evident. It is now an exercise in community healing and commitment to peace. The committee is grateful for the broad support we have received from the City of Owen Sound, Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, businesses, faith groups, local foundations, organizations, and from community members. We have come a long way, and the garden is a hopeful place to move forward. We have some events and a new and exciting youth initiative planned in the next year that will also help build peace, knowledge, relationships, and skills. We welcome everyone to the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden to learn, reflect, and move forward together in a good way. All my relations. So, back to you.
I'll now introduce Brian Melley, my fellow Peace Medal Committee member, to say a few final remarks before welcoming. We've kind of jumped the agenda here, but yeah, we'll sort it out through the wrapping. Yeah.
Thanks, Peter. We're so honored to have two very worthy recipients this year, and the Y gave a statement of peace at the World Alliance of YMCAs in 1981 that says, peace has many dimensions. It is not only a state of relationships among nations. We cannot expect to live in a world of peace if we're unable to live in peace with those who are close to us, even those who differ from us. And our Peace Medal recipients today have shown great perseverance, collaboration, and kindness and humor in their initiatives. And these projects have made our community more inclusive and a place that celebrates diversity and encourages healing. We thank you for making these significant contributions towards peace building in our community. And I would like to now invite Councillor Richard Thomas up from the City of Owen Sound, representing Mayor Ian Boddy, to say a few words.
Thanks. It's a real pleasure to be here today to bring greetings on behalf of the Mayor and Council, and also to bring thanks to both of today's recipients for the work that you've done within our community. On a personal note, I do have a passing love for the history of this area, and when I first moved here in 1986, I was surprised by how little people who lived here knew about their own community. And both of these projects are going to bring a greater awareness to people in the community about their own history. And from my perspective, I offer my thanks for that work to both of you. I have a scroll for each of you. I'll bring it to you. Don't get up again. But thank you very much and congratulations.
Thanks, Richard. So I'd now like to invite Warden Selwyn Hicks from the County of Grey up to say a few words.
Afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I love to feel the love. The word of the day is peace. And in my youth, you couldn't say the word peace without also saying love. And of course, the other word was grooviness. So peace, love, and groove. You remember that? Some of you? Some of you remember peace, love, and Bobby Sherman, right? But I'm off script already. I'll get back on script. So I've already said good afternoon. It's my pleasure to join you today on behalf of County Council and to be part of this wonderful event recognizing champions for peace in our community. I love attending positive events like this one and getting to meet, learn from people who make Grey County such a wonderful place to live. It's so important to hear about and to celebrate the accomplishments of individuals like Aly and Susan, not just to recognize their actions, but to inspire others to follow in their footsteps and make positive impacts in our community. Aly and Susan, I can say you have both inspired me. Your efforts, Aly, with the Potter's Field Monument, and Susan, the Gitche Namewikwedong Reconciliation Garden, embody the values of peace. Your recognition today is very well deserved. You have both respectively helped to shine a light on aspects of local history that many in Grey County do not know or had forgotten. And you've done so in an inclusive way that brings people together. On behalf of Grey County Council, thank you and congratulations.
And we have two other greetings from people who were not able to be here, but on behalf of Alex Ruff, our MP, and Bill Walker, MPP for Bruce Grey Owen Sound, we have congratulatory certificates, which I will deliver to our two winners. And in the meantime, Sarah, take the podium.
So in closing, I would like to extend a special thanks to each of you today for attending this year's YMCA Peace Medal ceremony. And to this year's recipients, congratulations again. Your advocacy and commitment is truly inspirational, and I'll echo what's already been said. Your attention to the history of our region is extremely important, and the sharing of that information is extremely important for those of us who follow. Your name will be added to our Peace Medal recipient frame that hangs here at the YMCA. You can see it over there today, but generally it's in the hall outside the gymnasium, and we look forward to putting that up so that we can have your names in our hall again. And we want to thank everyone, and we look forward to next year and seeing the good work happening over the coming year. So thank you again.
We have permission to get up and